They changed my picture yet?
You won't play. You know what? I'm coming around on it because you know what? Because Mike.
Okay, you don't respect the election. That's fine.
That's from the swearing in thing. That's respecting your worship. It's a nice one. If you have another one you sent us, didn't you? You want to use?
You can use the one we used on our campaign. That's what you. That's what you used when I paid you guys all that money for advertising.
Not
you
me.
seem to use it on the.
That doesn't influence our decision.
But
Doesn't
still,
influence our decision. Doesn't influence our decision.
No, not your decision, but.
No. If I change the photo, we got the photo. Yeah, it'll because Mike is sympathetic. Reid comes on as a guest. If he doesn't like the photo, fair enough.
Holy Mike, common sense. It sounds like Mike. This is kind of rare these days.
Photo of you. Okay, let's go.
I just want to do one thing.
We are live, everybody. Well, we're also on tape. We are deep down in the bowels of these music. Season 2, Episode 1. Christopher Foulds, Magic Mike, and Bill at the controls. Number 1. We're back to number 1. Anything for number 1?
Oh, number 1?
Yeah.
Number 1. Oh, geez. No, I don't have anything for number 1 right now. Kirk McLean would be number 1.
The greatest Canucks goalie in history of the Canucks, Kirk McLean.
Kirk McLean, absolutely. I agree 100% with you. He was
at the Memorial Cup. I talked to him actually. Got a picture with him.
That's right.
Because it was a fanboy moment. But
I saw him at a charity poker tournament in May in Surrey. Super nice guy.
Yeah. I had his poster on my wall. So it was one of those times where I interviewed him and I asked for a picture after. It's very fanboyish, but I don't care.
Was he number 1?
Number 1. Kirk McLean was number 1.
He was number 1 in Jersey?
Yeah.
Huh. I thought it was 30, 31 or 35 or something like that. I couldn't remember.
I'm wrong about that.
No, you're probably right. I just can't remember. It's been so long ago. So,
well, this actually isn't episode number 1. This is actually episode number 101.
101, but it's kind of hard.
And this brings me back thinking, back to the binary system, which ones and zeros, which was originally started out in about 1679. So really, this show is our oldest roots show.
Is that facts or is that total BS?
Do I ever lie? Do I ever BS? No, that's total facts.
That's the Magic Mirror, brought to you by Volkswagen.
Volkswagen.
So
it's a flying Volkswagen.
Yes, it is. Full disclosure, we've already filmed our segment with Reid. It's Reader's Digest. It was really good. He brought a guest as well, Cindy Dixon.
Amazing guest.
Amazing guest. She tells her story. She's been through a lot: addiction, recovery. She shares her opinion, and Reid shares some of her views about recovery. So we'll get to all that later. The big news yesterday, Katie Neustaeter. The legal battle continues between Katie and the mayor of Kamloops.
Right. Councillor Katie Neustaeter on March 17th, I believe it was, made a statement with council behind her, alleging the mayor had violated and crossed personal and professional boundaries. Said the mayor had belittled and anyway, said the mayor was treating people poorly. And they didn't take any questions. She wouldn't take any questions at the time about, well, give us details. What do you mean? What's going on? The mayor had denied that he had done that. He said it was all baloney. And then on June 12th, 3 months later, through his lawyer, David McMillan, he filed a defamation lawsuit against Katie Neustaeter, alleging that what she said defamed him, hurt his reputation in the community. And then just yesterday, on July 25th, Katie Neustaeter responded to that lawsuit with 30 pages of detailed claims backing up or explaining what she meant when she said that he was crossing boundaries. And there was a lot of interesting allegations in her response.
Just going back to Reid, because Reid came on our show and talked about one of the things that he felt inferred was sexual misconduct, and that's partly why his reputation has been damaged in the community.
Yeah, he said around the community, people said, "What are you grabbing? Are you grabbing people's butts? Are you doing this?" Yeah. And he thought that was very it damaged him and his wife and his family, and because he said when Katie spoke, it was so vague in general that people might have thought it was a sexual harassment thing, but it's not.
And she came forth with her version of the specifics yesterday.
Yesterday, yes.
Right, and some of them I can go through points here, and you can comment on them. Michael Potestio wrote a story, KamloopsThisWeek.com, where you can read. It's a long story. There's more than what we're going to be able to get to, but we'll get to some of the key points here. So numerous boundary violations and behavioral issues. Repeated claims the mayor brought councillors' families into city conversations, including her own father.
Right, and apparently he and her claims is that he was speaking with Kevin Kruger, the former longtime SOCRED or Liberal MLA, BC Liberal MLA, and there's a claim in the lawsuit that he had been talking to her father, and her claim is that the mayor was trying to get her father to convince Katie to help the mayor fire a senior city staffer. It's just a claim. Nothing's been proven in court, but that was one of the ones that jumped out at me.
Yep. Alleged boundary violations include yelling at councillors and city staff, belittling and name calling. That one he denies.
He has denied that.
He has denied that.
Yeah.
Showing up to operational city staff meetings at which his presence was not required, emailing staffers between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m. despite being asked not to unless the matter was urgent.
I can see him emailing people between midnight and 5 a.m. because he does it often, but I don't know if he was told not to, and that's another claim of hers. Yep.
Communicating, another one of the claims, communicating confidential information with people not with the city or council, these are multiple claims now, not showing up to events, critiquing councillors in local media, falsely implying one councillor is an alcoholic in a media interview.
Yeah, I don't recall that, but that's in her claim. Yeah.
So it's pretty.
There's a lot in there. There's also some in there about allegedly the mayor bringing up the family of other councillors, and we know that he had mentioned that he took Councillor Mike O'Reilly. His explanation why he removed him as a chair of one of the development committee was because Mike's wife Erin is a planner at the city, and the mayor thought that might be a conflict of interest. But it's interesting. There's a lot of some of the stuff in her lawsuit or claims. You can actually track back and go back in the stories we covered and kind of see where some of these allegations are coming from based on some comments councillors have made in the previous months. It's interesting to do, and about 6 or 7 of them we can definitely know. Okay, she is referring, even though it's not clearly spelled out there, she's referring to this because it came up in a council meeting. Yeah,
I mean, we are talking about this stuff again, Mike. What do you think about the fact that here we are again, kind of discussing this?
You know, I think that this is all damaging to all of their reputations because there's a lot of bickering going on, and
what did Dieter Duty say last week? Yeah. Former longtime councillor and mayoral candidate, right?
I was thinking yesterday, because you had talked about, yes, things are getting done, but more things could be getting done. Like, I put myself in both of their shoes. You know, if Reid says that, you know, his family's been affected, so that's got to be stressful on him. Katie this has to be stressful on her. Plus, she's having to deal with lawyers and taking time away. And Katie works hard. Katie does a lot of things. I'm not for 1 second saying that she doesn't, but if I were in her situation, I would be stressed to the nines, and it's got to affect your performance at work. And the same with Reid. I would guess, maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I would feel in that situation. My job would not be done as well as it.
You're distracted. You can't focus. There's no winners in this, right?
And it doesn't end at 5:30 or whatever time you go home, right? Yeah. So like we were chatting with the mayor about the 30-page document, and he hasn't had a chance to really fully digest it. Well, I know there's a lot of times that I'm working that I get home and I'm done.
Yeah.
I just. Yeah. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot going on there, right? So,
and we do ask him, what would it take to just drop it? Because he could, right?
Yeah, we do ask him that, and well, yeah, it's up to him. It's his decision whether or not to proceed.
Okay, let's talk about our weekend, because what a time. Mike, I know you led the way again. This time, thank goodness, we didn't go bird watching.
Yeah, I love. Did I ever tell you that I really like birds, and they taunt me all the time, which led us to trying to develop a flying suit. Right?
One of those flying suits.
Well, those exactly. Are neat, yeah, those are really cool. Yeah.
So I remember now. We took Foulds up to the top of Mount Paul.
He's the lightest one out of all 3 of us, so he's our test pilot.
Yeah. Right, and we actually used some of the technology that Volkswagen uses in their aerodynamic SUVs, and there's an abundance of these SUVs available in Kamloops, isn't there?
Aren't the rates high though?
Oh,
no, Chris, the rates are not.
I almost cut one of his wings off because he's so annoying and tossed him off the mountain. But the rates,
and we don't condone going up Mount Paul. You have to ask for permission from the Kamloops band.
Which we did. We always do. We always will. The rates again with you and the Bank of Canada going up.
Well, the bank rate just went up 2 weeks ago.
But Terry Lowe has told you before, and me on this show, the lease rates of VW, Mike, where are they going?
Down.
Down.
Yeah.
Oh, like his last name. They're low.
They're low.
They're very low.
OSR.
Right, now I get it.
And you know what? We're also writing jingles now.
It was a different suit, though, as well, because we actually went to Gord's to kind of develop the wings, didn't we?
Well, I wanted to make sure that had I crashed, that the Sealy mattress cushion, because that's almost indestructible, would be protecting the vital organs.
And it turns out that to make the flying suit itself, the Sealy mattress tops are so light and fluffy, and they work really well to convert one of my furry costumes into a flying suit.
And you know what? Foulds, again, he was so fired up. He had multiple coffees from McDonald's, but you know what that did? He was a little bit full, you know, and so when we threw him off, there was a bit of a urination issue, right?
Yeah.
So what did we do? We had to go to Gord's to get a washing machine because only that could fix that amount.
But you know, the coffee from McDonald's is so good, and we loaded him up with enough coffee so we could get him to start, you know, jittering a little bit, and that really helped, I think, stop him from crashing too hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
Amazing story. I'm on decaf today.
Why?
Rightfully so.
Personal reasons, but just jittery.
What's the personal reasons?
I have anxiety.
You have anxiety?
Yeah.
What don't you have? I think if we listed what you don't have, we'd have a shorter list.
It's recent. It's just this
anxiety.
Yeah. Counselor says that it's a main problem for anxiety. And I have one coffee in the morning, and I'm jittery, and it's like 3 hours where I'm just ruined.
Do you have to do anything else diet-wise? Alcohol, food, any like tweaks?
Well, I'm working out hardcore as it is.
You are.
How's the guitar come?
I was going to talk to you about this. I'm serious. I think it's time for some lessons.
Yeah, it's therapy. Like they say, and I'm not joking. Music therapy is a thing. There's counselors, therapists in town and elsewhere who specialize in music therapy.
Yeah,
for people with anxiety and other issues.
You know, it's actually interesting. Anxiety is it manifests in all sorts of different ways and differently in different people.
Yeah,
and I didn't realize how impactful that can be. Until I started getting a little.
I didn't realize how many people is so widespread and at various degrees, from kids all the way up to adults.
I love coffee too. I love McDonald's coffee in the morning to have a coffee, and it's a habit. It's a habitual thing too, and I miss it. Like
it's a drug though.
Coffee.
Caffeine's a drug.
I get decaf. You know, I go through different phases where I can't drink so much coffee, and that's why I drink decaf. Sometimes I get half and half.
Yeah.
Decaf and yeah.
Alicia Krutop, that's my head shrinker, and she says it's a massively bigger problem than people realize when it comes to people who are
caffeine.
Anxiety, yes, caffeine, like anxiety, and for sleep purposes. If you have trouble sleeping and you're drinking 5 coffee a day, could be why.
Okay. There's some well-known name brands of coffee places around that I can't drink on paydays. It doesn't turn out well.
Oh yeah. You don't like Starbucks?
I just don't like their coffee. I think it's just horrible. It rots your gut.
Okay, any final thoughts here before we move on to Reader's Digest, which is brought to you by McDonald's?
Nope, bring in the mayor.
Good morning, what can I do for you?
Good morning, how are you doing today?
I'm okay, how are you?
I'm all right. How do you feel about the smoke?
Oh, it's getting better.
It's getting better, eh?
Yeah.
I like that positive attitude. I'd like to make an announcement, please. I am cutting caffeine out of my diet.
Uh-oh.
Nope, I think it's a good thing, and I'm wondering, do you serve decaf coffee right here at McDonald's?
Yes, we do.
Oh, of course you do, because you're always serving the people well underneath the golden arches.
Well, it's also got the poppy.
He does. People, I got so many citizens telling me, what's with those guys?
Okay. Cindy,
do you like the music though? The music's nice.
It's beautiful.
I made that on GarageBand.
You made that?
Yeah.
You composed that?
Well, yes, it's a loop. Good. It's a loop on GarageBand. I didn't play the violin myself, but
that's cool.
Yeah.
Play music?
A little bit of guitar. Mike says I need to play more because I'm stressed out.
Yeah.
Right, Mike?
Guitar helps with everything.
Music is therapy.
Everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
Were you stressed out in Halifax? The storm and us not getting the games? Where do you want to start? Anywhere?
No, I wasn't stressed out. I mean, it was great. We went over there, Cookby Cashmere and myself and other group of people. We went there. It started out really good, and then we had a huge downpour of lightning and thunder. And
it was 3 months of rain in one night, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think 250 millimeters or something in one night. Yeah,
4 people died. It was tragic.
Yeah. Well, we don't know if 4. I think they've recovered one body.
1 and maybe 2, I think. But yeah, anyway,
now 2. Yeah,
probably. Yeah.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, one of our local communities, one of the Cookby's wife of Bonaparte, she almost drove into the storm. Wow. Yeah, I went to a few of the games. I went to lacrosse games and soccer games, and we had some pretty good results for BC there.
So all this time, I would have bet my house, I would have bet my car, I would have bet everything, because I like to bet. I would have bet that we would have got it. I said it's a fait accompli. And in fact, I said we should save money, not send you guys, because we're going to get the games. And I was wrong.
And you reneged on that decision.
Which tells you why
I should send Reid.
Yeah, which tells you why I don't make a lot of money gambling. But what happened? I mean, is it because Calgary just hasn't? It's the 4th most populous city. They got way more. They can accommodate people with hotels and with facilities. Did they say why, or did they give you a grade, or are you in the dark?
No, you know, I talked a little bit to one of the directors, and you know, Calgary is a big place. I mean, we were going against a giant. I mean, we did a great job. I mean, Cookby, Cashmere, and the band, and our community, our staff did a great job. Nikki Ramez, she did an awesome job. I mean, let's face it, it was like a David and Goliath story.
They hosted the Olympics at one time.
And you should see the facilities. That's why they have some huge facilities. Like, you wouldn't believe the soccer facility that I went to, and you know,
the indoor,
yeah. That's where we actually, they had to cancel the closing ceremonies on the Friday night. I think it was a Friday night. Yeah. And then we had the closing ceremonies on the Saturday inside the soccer,
because of the weather.
The RBC Center, I think, and they've got some huge facilities. And you know, I guess one thing that one guy did mention to me, and he said, as long as you guys build the motels or hotels you say you're gonna, but I mean, we're talking 6,000 athletes and their parents. I mean, I knew some of the athletes' parents and met some of the kids that were in the Indigenous Games in Halifax, and you know, there was 2 or 3, you know, parents at a game. So you know, it's pretty huge.
It would be the largest event Kamloops Tk'emlups would ever host, right?
Yeah, and I believe they wanted something where, you know, I mean, let's face it, they said that this decision should have taken 30 minutes. It took 4 hours for them to make that decision. So, and so I think we did a great job, and well, you know, maybe I mean, we even talked about Cookby and the team that was out there. We talked about looking at hosting other events, and I really think too, though, after driving around Halifax in the rain and I mean, our Uber driver, he never, it was like he didn't know how to drive in the rain. He was driving in the lakes. And I'm like, whoa, buddy, there's water come up there. That manhole lid's gone. Your wheel, that 17-inch wheel is going to be driving in the hole so it can drive around, you know? So I kind of had to coach him a little bit on driving in bad weather.
Well,
not that they don't get rain.
You told Michael Potestio, and the interesting story that we got out of it was you said, okay, we didn't get it, we're disappointed. However, this tells you that the lesson learned is we need to build.
You bet we do. Yeah, some of the facilities there are really nice, and we haven't built. I mean, I was on the board of minor hockey, 12 years ago, and we needed ice rinks back then, you know, or lacrosse or whatever, just facilities, and soccer, you know, multiple types of facilities, and we need to build, and everybody keeps saying we don't have land, so myself and Cookby, we started a little conversation about, you know, working together on stuff, and nothing that we brought to council or anything like that.
There's lots of land over there.
Yes, there is. But we've had some talks about it over the last. Well, as a matter of fact, before I got elected, I went to the band. I think I was the first mayoral candidate before getting elected that went to the Tk'emlups band, and you know, spoke about you know, doing joint recovery facilities and stuff like that, and
What do you think the appetite is in the city generally from taxpayers to put money towards building these facilities?
I think the appetite's good. I mean, like I said, we need to, but like I said before, I think we need to go big. We need to go big where you've got lots of parking. Everywhere I go and see these facilities, they've got lots of parking. Okay, you don't invite people from all over the world to come, and again, I mean, the other thing too, we need, like that Uber was great over there. It's I mean, you got to watch though. You need taxis too, because to get to the airport.
Uber's been approved to come here. They just haven't chosen to come here. They went to Kelowna. I took a U-Ride. U-Ride's pretty good in town.
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
But you got to be careful. Like we were going to the airport, and the Uber was like $130 or $40.
Well, you know ahead of time though, right? They're not. It's not like you either take it or don't take it. Right?
Yeah. So we went to the front desk, and the cab cost $60.
That's right. Yeah.
Where the other way, on the way out, it was like $50 for Uber
in New York
and $75 for the cab. So you got to pay attention.
Same experience. You got to pay attention to that. Absolutely.
You just mentioned airports. Our airport. Are you concerned? I mean, I get Flair Airlines
yesterday announced that they're going to pull the plug on their run from Kamloops to Edmonton, their twice weekly run. It's only been in effect for a month and a week. They're going to run it till September 6th, and that's it. Some people say the planes are too big. They should be running the small planes, but WestJet ran the Dash 8s, I think, the small planes twice, and it didn't work. What's happening with our airport? How come we can't get anything but connecting flights to Vancouver or Calgary? Is that just who we are?
No, I don't think it's who we are. I think we have to focus. I called you a month ago, maybe.
Yeah, about a month ago, about 3 weeks ago, when we're brainstorming ideas.
Yeah, and I didn't even know that Flair was coming in on that Sunday, and I think that
Michael was there.
Michael on his day off was okay.
He covered it,
I think that we should have been starting quite a while ago to work with, and like I said, we need to, as a community, support it, and also we should be talking with Edmonton. But we're just too late. We should have done that before. And
you didn't know
you came up with some very good ideas.
I gave you some ideas. It's too late now, I guess. Maybe for the next airline. But you didn't know that they were coming in that day. No one told your office.
No.
Yeah, that's a faux pas on their part, because you want the mayor cutting the ribbon and doing all that stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, and I appointed Bill Sarai as the president of the.
Yeah, he's the president. That's right.
He was sick that day, so I think that there was a mix-up there.
We've got the Victoria flight coming in. I love that flight. It cuts out so much travel time and money. So hopefully that one can stick around.
19 seats. Maybe it's doable every day. We're going to have Peter and Todd going to be on it. So there's two people.
But you know what?
Right?
What we need to do, and what I was going to say, and that's why I texted you at the time. We need to get community support, and I'm talking to you guys too. I mean, nobody cares about fart jokes, okay? But we care about airlines, okay? We care about people that are in recovery.
No, and we cover it all.
We're talking about it right now.
We're talking about
recovery center, but it's a little late.
Well, no,
I texted you a month ago.
You weren't even there. We had the story. You didn't know about it.
We were there.
Okay, I'm talking as a community. I'm not.
No, we do.
You guys. We need support from all media sources. We need.
It would be help if Flair was to advertise in all media sources too, to let the populace know we're here. They never took any ads, as far as I know, not on TV, radio, or here. As far as I know, they were.
Sometimes you do things for free, and you can get some pretty good success.
How many stories did we do on Flair? We went to 2 press conferences when they changed the thing. We were the only media at their arrival.
Sorry, I'm not
because Michael was working on his day off.
I'm not targeting you.
We do what we can,
in general,
but in general,
as a community.
In general, it's a symbiotic relationship. It's not just one way. And in this case, I think they might have dropped the ball with respect to advertising. Not just advertising, but they should have went more word of mouth. They were relying on word of mouth. You needed more than that.
Maybe there's just not enough people that get here that want to fly to Edmonton.
Maybe Edmonton wasn't the right choice. Who knows?
I don't know. I think that we can. I phoned Peter Angle, the general manager for Stingray, and he was fully supportive of doing something. They have their stations in Edmonton and things like that.
Yeah.
I was going to contact the mayor of Edmonton and see if we could do something there. Yeah. But again, we're just too late. And I called Peter a little too late. Also, it was after we had a meeting with the CEO from the airport, and we're too late. Yeah. And I think that we really got to focus on, like I say, when the first flight comes in on a Sunday, and the only reporter out there is Michael, and he's there on his day off. I mean, we need to have more of a bang there.
Well, I've heard people say online, a lot of the thing is well, maybe Edmonton, not enough people want to go there, but I've heard people say, we need a cheaper flight to Vancouver. I know we have flights to Vancouver, but they're expensive. Yeah. Or we want a flight to Vegas or to some sun destination. Does that work? Do you think that'll work? Maybe a Vegas flight, a Phoenix flight, wintertime?
I don't know. Prince George just got a flight to Mexico here, so I think anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
I think anything's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that flight from Seattle to Kamloops, you know, for sun peaks and everything else.
That
like
worked
in the winter.
for a while, right? But you know, they all started and they all failed. That's why I'm saying maybe we're not Kelowna Airport. Maybe Kelowna Airport is too close to us. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying they try it, which is great, but nothing seems to stick except for the connections, right, to Vancouver and Calgary.
Wildfires. Let's switch topics here. Rossmoor Lake, how far now? 10 kilometers?
Last 9.8 from Aberdeen as of 2 days ago, but the weather seems to help because it's cooling it down.
Yeah, I heard it was 20 now.
Well, we had one. Well, maybe it's backing up, but it was 9.8 at the closest part on the 24th. So
yeah, last I heard was 2,600
oh yeah, 2,600 hectares, but 9.8 kilometers from the city. Yes.
What's your role as the mayor for, you know, keeping us safe and communicating with the community?
Well, you know, we've left that all up to community. Again, I was out of touch. Well, I was in touch with you guys, everybody, but then I'd learned that somebody had activated the deputy mayor council,
the EOC.
Beppo. Right? Yeah. And but no, I was in contact with you know, TNRD. I was in contact with BC Wildfire Services. He called me actually.
Yeah, because you were in Halifax when all this flared up.
Yeah, but I was still in full contact 24/7. Matter of fact, he called me at 1:30 in the morning.
You were probably up.
I did wake up because I keep my phone on, you know. I got kids.
I know.
And sometimes I want to talk to you.
Oh yes, I know. You up? You up? It's 3:38 in the morning.
So yeah, but I wasn't in. I'd been in contact with TNRD. I'd talked to Dougie Houghton. Yep. He's a director. I talked to Mike Grenny. I talked to the mayor of Merritt, you know, to find out what they're doing. And so, I probably should have been in more contact, but again, somebody activated the deputy mayor, and it wasn't me.
Well, no, it was a good idea because I talked to, on Sunday I was working, I talked to Greg Whiteman, who's the EOC.
Yeah, he knew. I texted.
Yeah, and so he was, and it was good because the media could get a hold of people right away to say what's happening, because we were getting calls like, my house going to burn down, how close is it? So we talked to Whiteman, we managed to talk to the fire center and just sort of get a story, not only us but all the media, to say, you know, let's relax. It's bad, but it's not on your doorstep. And the communication, what I'm saying, was really great. And it has been. And that's the way. Good. And
I think that's the way it's supposed to be. Instead of me getting up there and going blah blah blah, I think we're better off to let the authorities deal with it.
And I think from our perspective, the communication this year has been better than years past, and that's good for everybody.
And even CTV called me yesterday, but I was in the middle of council meetings, and I didn't know enough about it. So the message will get out there through BC Wildfire Services, through all the parties involved, right?
I agree.
Not a politician getting up there and saying, you know, something they shouldn't.
But if you have something to say, you'll say it.
Yeah, if they want me to say something, or if the public feel that I should be saying something, then I would.
Okay, let's move on to the news of yesterday. The big news that came down yesterday. Kamloops Councillor Katie Neustaeter, she files her legal response to your defamation lawsuit against her. So just your general thoughts on what came out yesterday.
I know it's 30 pages. So
have you read it?
There must I've kind of scanned it. So I haven't sat down and looked at it all. But it's 30 pages. She must have a good lawyer.
Well, it's the city lawyer, I think, isn't it?
Oh, that's right too.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of it. That's
not.
You don't want to talk about it at all?
I don't. I'd sooner my lawyer deal with this stuff. I came here today because I saw a story on Info News about a young lady that has been 20 years in recovery.
Oh yeah, we'll get to her.
And I think
we'll get to that.
She is part of one of the big reasons. One of the reasons, not all, but one of the reasons that I ran to be the mayor. And it's to get a healthy community and get a safer community and get people into recovery and get a good community. We don't need more enforcement. We need more help and on services and things like that. Yesterday I said in council, we have a break between closed meeting and our open meeting, and I go down my car lot and there's 4 people there, all sitting there using right on my property. They stay across the street at the Emerald Shelter, and I'm nice to them. They know me. The one guy says, "Oh, this guy's a buddy of mine, so we can all come here." I said,
"We're gonna get to all that though. This Cindy's gonna come on next. Okay. So, are you gonna answer any of our questions about Katie? Can we ask you some of them, and you'll answer them?
I'd never read the 30-page document.
Well, I have some of the things that she says, so I can bring them forth to you now.
Yeah, whatever she says, again, I could just say true or not true, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Okay. That's fair.
So what about bringing councillors' family members into conversations, including her father, former Kamloops MLA Kevin Kruger? her side of the story is alleging inappropriate and continued contact with her father with intent to influence city business.
What city business?
Including trying to get her father to ask her to help you fire an employee in the city.
That type of city business?
That's part of it.
Yeah, matter of fact, the first time I met Kevin Kruger was in October. You were there. I don't know if you were there, but it was after a forum that we had at TRU.
Our forum? Probably our forum.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was the forum, and right after the forum, this gentleman comes up to me, Kevin Kruger, who I didn't know. I recognized him because he was an MLA and he was ICBC.
Yeah.
And he walked up to me, and he shook my hand, and he said, "I support what you're doing. I'd like to help you."
Okay.
Okay, and that's when I first met Kevin Kruger.
That was at the
I didn't even know that Kevin Kruger. Just before that, I learned that Councillor Neustaeter's dad was Kevin Kruger. I don't know anything about the family. Okay, and that's all I'm going to say. That's the first time I met, and since then, there can be all kinds of stories. But I think
that's not
that'll
true,
be
though.
That'll be done in the court.
Like trying to use Kevin to sway Katie into firing somebody.
No.
Okay. What about boundary violations? Initially refusing to put a councillor on deputy mayor rotation and standing committees.
Dale Bass.
That we're assuming would be Dale Bass.
Because her husband was criticizing you on social media.
No, that was an error. That was an error at the time. And matter of fact, I think I talked to you at the time because that was an error. No, I'm not a vindictive person. Like I said, I've worked many years in the car industry, and like I said, you got to focus on the job. Focus on, don't take personal things. Let's focus on the community. Okay, that's why we got elected, and let's move forward. And I believe that this, obviously, we're 9 months in.
Yep.
And again, let's keep working on solutions, like trying to have a Cam Talk town hall and letting seniors 60 years of age and older speak to the community.
This one I had never heard of. Disclosing death of city staffer's family member live on live radio.
No idea.
And they also claim that you inferred in public that one of the councillors was an alcoholic. It's in the lawsuit response. No?
I guess that's why you got to talk to my lawyer.
Okay, last one on it.
Didn't happen.
What about yelling at city councillors and staff, belittling and name calling?
Again, allegations.
Okay. What would it take? What would it take to drop the lawsuit? Can you? Can you just say, you know what, I'm done with this and I want to drop the lawsuit? Like, can you do that?
Like I said from the beginning, I think you guys should talk to my legal counsel.
Well, I had a lunch with David.
That was before. That was before.
No, that was after the lawsuit was filed.
No. This just came up. I thought. No. You had lunch with him yesterday afternoon.
No. I talked to him about and then I asked him this question. I had lunch, a really good lunch with him, about a couple hours after the lawsuit was filed.
There's a beautiful lady sitting over there. It's 20
June.
year in recovery.
What I asked David then, I said, I heard that if Katie would just stand up and publicly apologize for that comment, the lawsuit would go away. Is that true? And I was told, well, not necessarily. So would it take more than an apology to drop this and get on with the city business, or are we past that now?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's 30 pages of apologies. I guess we'd have to. I'd have to look at it and speak to my legal counsel. Like I said, I don't know everything, but from what I'm hearing, it doesn't sound that great.
No, it doesn't sound that great. and
sounds like the stories are.
You seriously did not look at it, or are you just bullshitting?
No, like I said. You always do that to me.
No, I'm wondering.
Think I'm a bullshitter?
No, I'm
telling you, I scanned it. It's 30 freaking pages.
It just seems like if somebody had.
No, look at it, read it. Not like you. Not like you. You go off. You don't even read Mel Rothenberger's.
Yes, I did read Mel's column. I thought that was an interesting column.
Somebody said, "Take the knives off the table." I'm just saying,
if it was me and somebody had filed some kind of response to my lawsuit, I'd be interested to look at it.
Well, do you know what I did yesterday?
No.
From first thing in the morning till last night at about 9 o'clock, I was in council chambers. Okay. I couldn't even call back CTV to do an interview about the fires. Okay. Then I went over to some friends where his father and husband had just passed away. And that to me was more concerning than this. This is why I have a lawyer. This is why the truth will come out.
Okay.
Doesn't have to come out in the media. Whatever you guys say, this one's going to say this, or Brett's going to say that, or this or that. You know, let's focus on solutions in this city.
Okay.
And this will be a solution.
Okay.
At the end of the day.
I can't wait to see how this goes.
So let's move on.
Let's introduce.
How you doing over there, Cindy?
Before we bring Cindy on, do you want to give us a little preamble?
Yeah, give us a preview.
Who is Cindy and why did you want to bring her on today?
Yes.
Cindy is Cindy Dixon. Matter of fact, why I wanted to bring her on is I've had a lot of people in the community say, why do you go on that show? Those guys are just hammering you.
We're not hammering you.
I said what the citizens are saying.
That's not what all people think.
Sorry, I didn't say all.
A lot of people think we're too soft.
You know, a lot of people think that we're best friends.
People that call me.
I get accused of being your best friend sometimes, and then some people say that I hate you. So I think we're kind of hitting all the marks.
Anyway, you wanted to
guys asked me a question.
Yes.
Go ahead. Cindy doesn't like we're talking over you.
No, but you asked me a question.
Okay.
So I was going to say, hey, you guys, the majority of the people that I speak to, me, not you, me, say that those guys are blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And they don't listen, and they don't dig into things like the armchair mayor does.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but either way, then I saw this story on Info News about this young lady named Cindy Dixon who's been 20 years in recovery. And when I read it, I reached out to Info News and asked them to contact her, because I'd like her, because I call you guys and reporters all the time when I'm talking to people on the streets and stuff like that. And it's very rare. You guys did get up one morning, 4 in the morning, and come with me and met a guy on Tronquil Corridor.
Met a bunch of people.
One guy on Tronquil Corridor, okay, who was out there, who we would call homeless. Yeah. And where did he live?
Spiro House.
Spiro House, that's right. Yeah. But anyway, very seldom do you get a chance for somebody to come and speak of what's happening. So when I contacted Cindy, I thought, what a great thing to do. We're talking solutions, and part of the big reason I ran was getting a healthy community, getting a safe community.
Yeah.
And when we can have the availability to have facilities to have thousands of Cindys, then why wouldn't we be speaking about that? Because that's why I ran on things. We, you know,
more of a focus on recovery rather than the status quo.
Well, and I think Cindy can probably explain.
Sure, let's bring her in.
Because let's bring her in.
Got the entry-level one here. This is the 6600. This one is just your basic self-clean. It's just got your 2 racks, no convection, just super basic.
Okay.
And then you have your level up, the 7700. This one as well as your self-clean. And it has convection and air fry mode. So you've got a couple extra things there.
So those numbers that you're saying there, 7700, what does that mean?
That's just the model number.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So it just kind of differentiates where they are. And then the biggest level up would be the 8800.
Okay.
So this one here has your true convection, has 3 racks, and it's got a big oven capacity, so you can fit big old turkey in there.
How was your weekend?
It's pretty good. I turned 20.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Okay, Cindy, I read the story, the Infotel story. It's an amazing story. It's an impactful story, and you have an amazing story. So why don't you start by just telling us a bit about your story?
So where I've come from, or just life experience?
Yeah, both, wherever you want to start.
So, I mean, I come from generational trauma and sexual abuse as well. And so that created mental health problems throughout my life. And when I was 6 years old, I found alcohol. I come from a family of alcoholics and a family of drug addicts. And that was normal, right? I had 2 parents that were raising children, right? And so yeah, I found solution in alcohol and drugs, right? It numbed the underlying issues of what I was going through in childhood. All the neglect, the emotional neglect, the abuse, right? Like, you know, my father was very abusive. He would drink daily and beat my mother, and I was that little girl cleaning up the blood, cleaning up all the stuff, right? And that impacts a child, right? And so when you're not taught life skills and you're taught survival coping skills, you carry that forth into the world, right? And yeah, and I ended up getting pregnant. You know, I was on the streets prior to that. I ended up getting pregnant and still being that broken little girl inside, not knowing how to heal, not knowing how to do any of that. I had my daughter, and you know, I was sober, I was clean through my pregnancy, but the underlying issues inside were killing me, right? So I picked up again and continued that. And then I had my second daughter, quit again, and then, you know, I was still dying inside. And then I picked up again after my youngest daughter was born. And it wasn't a matter of time before, you know, the ministry got involved, you know, and I don't blame them now. I look back and I don't blame them. Because my children were being neglected, and everything I said that I wouldn't be, that my parents were, I was becoming.
When
you know?
Sorry, go ahead.
And so with, you know, not knowing what direction to turn, because I didn't have that guidance, not knowing what direction to turn in my community. I didn't have people offering help, like, hey, you know, let's suggest this, or, you know, here's a treatment center, here's a detox center. I knew nothing about that. I had to learn the hard way, you know, and that's the reality of addiction. You have to learn the hard way. So I mean, my children got, they got apprehended and they were going up for adoption, and you know, that wasn't enough to even stop my addiction, right? Because that pain inside was so severe. You know, I didn't want to live. I really didn't want to live. I didn't want to live with all that. And you know, that's what I mean. We carry all that shame in it, and a lot of it's not even ours, right?
When you say picked up, can you explain what that is? And also, was there a low point for you that you can remember thinking, okay, like, you know, this is where I have to really shape up?
Absolutely, there was many low points. And what I mean about picking up is like picking up, sticking a needle in my arm, picking up a pipe, sticking it in my mouth, you know, alcohol, anything, a pill. I would go to the hospital or go to my doctor and get pain pills and trade them for drugs, you know, anything.
To numb the pain.
Absolutely. And, you know, and it worked for a long time until it didn't no more, you know, until I hated myself so much I couldn't even look myself in the mirror.
We've talked a little bit about this system that we have in British Columbia and Kamloops also. You know, we've talked about, you know, how hard it is. Like, I've talked to you guys, you know, when people are ready to go.
Yeah, and
we need to be ready for them to go.
Needs a place to go. Yeah,
yeah, and not another drug building. You know, it's, you know, and you know, I think Cindy can tell you more than any of us. You know.
Okay, so the day that you finally decided, I really can't live this way, I need some help. What happened next? How did you come out of this? I mean, out of the addiction.
So I was sitting in a apartment building with, you know, a bunch of drug dealers and some working girls, some prostitutes, and we were all making counterfeit money. And I couldn't get high that day. I just couldn't get high anymore. And I call it a spiritual awakening. I had a spiritual awakening, and I went out and sat outside on Tranquille, the street, outside a barbershop for about 6 hours, and I cried and I cried. I hadn't cried in years because I was so numb by drugs and whatever else that looked like, right? You know, so I sat there and cried, and I just realized I need to get up and I need to change my life. You know, I can't live this. I have 2 beautiful daughters that need me. You know, I didn't have this, you know, like, I need to be accountable. I need to grow up, you know. I gotta find solutions, right? I gotta heal. And that's my turning point, right? My mom lived maybe a half a block down the street, and it probably took me about an hour to get to her house, because I was 80 pounds soaking wet. I hadn't eaten in probably about a week, and, you know, I was probably so dehydrated I should have been in the hospital. But and that was my turning point. I called the detox center, and by the grace of God, I was able to get in right away. I had tried many times to go into detox. I was in treatment centers prior to that, but I wasn't ready. You know, a lot of the times I go to detox because I couldn't get high anymore. So I'd go in there for 5 days. By the time I got out, I could get high again.
Right.
And so, you know, it's a system, but we don't have enough of it, right? So the reason why I get high again is because I didn't have support on the outside. So there was no aftercare. There was no mental health resource. Mental health is a long waiting list.
A Band-Aid solution.
Yes. Yeah. You know, and when I did go to mental health, they just gave me a bunch of medication and I was numb again. So, you know, it was really tough. So, you know, I think we should have more like wellness programs and stuff like that, like holistic approach, like, you know, maybe like get property and bring people up there and put a little treatment center on there, bring animals in, give them a purpose, because I didn't have a purpose when I never knew a purpose until like I was in sobriety, like a long time in sobriety.
So what are your issues now with how the drug crisis is being handled?
Well, the difference from when I was out there to now is, you know, our government is supplying drugs. We got harm reduction now, which is providing places to go and use. But I mean, if it was working, why are we having people on the street? You know, why am I finding needles and wrappers and pipes and all that stuff on the street if that's helping? I don't find any of that helpful.
Does it help? But the safe supply, though, the idea behind it is saying that if we give them safe drugs that aren't, I mean, no drug is safe, but it doesn't have the fentanyl in it. Is there anything positive to that, do you think?
No.
No?
Because I even talk to people on the street and learning from experience, like I would get clean supply from the hospital or clean supply from somewhere else, and I go trade it for my drug of choice or I sell it, right? So I mean, that's what's going on the streets. That's why we're having overdoses and all that stuff, because, you know, they're still getting that fentanyl and they're still, so I think our focus should be like all the taxpayers' money should focus on a solution as a community instead of providing all this for them. Put it in the right areas. We have an organization in Kamloops and it's not helping at all. Like they're housing them. They're housing them and they can use them there. There's no accountability that they need to clean up. They get kicked out if they use or anything like that. And back where I came from, if there was something like that, we'd get the boot. And sooner or later we'd end up enough's enough, you know, and that's where we have to get.
Tough love.
Tough love.
Yeah.
You do it with your kids, you have to do it with these people, and you know, that's the realization. These are your children, these are your grandchildren, these are your brothers, these are your sisters, this is your mom, your dad, like these are family. And I think in the community we need to get in that right area and support that, right?
You mentioned that the biggest thing, you had the spiritual awakening when you're in this apartment building. You came outside, first thing you're thinking about your two kids, they need you. I don't need this, I don't want this anymore. What besides that, what got you to sobriety? What got you to today that didn't before? Was there certain supports that worked this time for you? Like, how did you get to here?
I learned the hard way. You know, I beat myself down so bad by heavy usage. I was just mostly mentally bankrupt. My soul was empty, right? And that's the reality of it, you know. And that's what I expressed that to a lot of people, is a soul sickness on the streets, right? And that's what I had, was a soul sickness, you know. I had a mental obsession of the mind and body, and that's what the drugs did, and it numbed it all. And so when it was an aha moment, you know. You get to that point where enough is enough, finally. You get some common sense, a little bit of common sense are still in there. You know what is going on, you know what you need to do when you hit a bottom. If you don't hit a bottom, you can't figure that out.
So you've lived this life. You've been where we see all the people on the street now in this morass of addiction, mental health, trauma. And if I hear you correctly, you say the answer has to be more recovery, more detox, Absolutely. More holistic approach, and less of what we're doing now, which is just status quo.
Enabling, yeah.
Enabling?
Yeah.
Warehousing.
Warehousing.
Yeah, warehousing, yeah.
All right.
You know, yeah, we need like after care programs and treatment centers, detox centers, like, and funded, because who on the street can afford $30,000 for a treatment center for a month?
Right.
You know?
And this is not the current mode of operation with our government, right? We had Carol Fenton on here.
No, it's not. It's a different. It's a different.
And a lot of people are going to watch this and say, you know, we're only presenting one side.
No, we had Carol Fenton, and she's the medical health officer for Interior Health in Kamloops, and Interior Health and the provincial government's viewpoint is markedly different than Alberta's, for example. It's called the Alberta model, where they're building 11. They just opened one by Red Deer, 11 treatment facilities, free, no waiting list. Go in and do it. Some people say, well, they don't have a harm reduction program like we do. So there's critics of it, but
well, the bottom line is
they're doing something different than we are.
Yeah, the bottom line is since 2019 in Kamloops, we're on target to triple our overdose deaths by the end of this year.
Yep.
We have probably more harm reduction facilities in Kamloops than they do in Kelowna. Kelowna even has less overdoses than us. Why are us four the only ones at 4 o'clock in the morning on the streets talking to people? Why are we the only, we'll call us at that point, outreach workers? You can get a cab a lot easier than you can get somebody out there to help somebody get from in front of Peter Millibar's office back to the Sparrow House, where maybe if we get more services in there, they can help that gentleman instead of having his orchestra right out on the sidewalk. And if we wouldn't have stopped you guys, what would we have called him? I would have called him homeless.
I found it interesting.
He lived at the Sparrow House.
All the people that we spoke to, I think we spoke to over half dozen, and we saw more. They were all at that moment, you know, in the 3, 4 in the morning, at their most sober. They're the most clarity. So your argument is that's when you want to talk to them, because by noon they're going to be high and you can't. They're a different person.
They hardly recognize you at 2 in the afternoon when they're down.
So there's the difference, but that's a side thing here. So what you're saying is, we've heard before, the government doesn't seem to be doing it. What would you advise somebody on the street who's been in your situation? They're in the depths of despair right now and they want help. What should they do? Someone on the street right now is having that moment you had. Where do they go?
Reach out to a detox center, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I'd come at them with empathy and understanding and put myself in their shoes. And that's huge out there, right? You have to come from a place of understanding, and I think that's why it's important to hear from people that have lived the experience and have like the street support as well, you know. You know, I would suggest going to detox, because that's when they're the most vulnerable, is those times in the morning. That's when I was always ready, but you know, there's always a waiting list, and that's the big thing. There's always a waiting list, and by that time I was hurting so bad inside, and the drugs had side effects, and I needed to chase that, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's why we need those more supports, right? Like, supports are huge, and the underlying issues like mental health supports, like all that stuff, right? You know, to fix that brokenness, because that's what it is. They're lost souls. They're broken little kids walking around out there, and you know, they have an adult exterior, but inside they're, you know, they need a lot of inner child work, and that's the reality of it, right? And you know, that's that generational trauma, and it affects people in so many different ways. I know people that, you know, drink socially, but the reason why they're drinking or whatever underlying issue is because they're hurting inside.
Yeah.
You know, addiction is like that. It will take you over, you know, and it's sad. It's really sad.
Today we dropped them off back into the middle of the liquor store, or in the middle of the drugstore.
You mentioned you lost your kids. Do you have your kids back?
Oh yes, my kids are older now. Yeah,
is that their
27?
Names on the tattoo here?
Yes, 27 and almost 25.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's really great.
Well, you look
I fought
great
for them back in the court system. It took me a year and a half, but I fought for them tooth and nail, and I got to raise them. You know,
awesome.
And I wouldn't have had that choice if I didn't hit a bottom and I had things provided for me, right? And that's the difference. And
yeah, you're saying that might not have happened had the situation been like it is today.
I would have died. I know I would have. Yeah. If it kept being given to me and I had places to go do it. By the end of my addiction, I had nowhere to live. I had nowhere to turn to. My family turned their back on me, and that's good. I'm glad. It was tough love, right? And if I had all that support and everything, I would have died, because they would have never hit a bottom, right? And that's the reality of addiction. I get a lot of people saying, you know, well, people die that way. Well, that's the reality of addiction too. I knew when I was putting a drug in my system that I could overdose, you know, but that wasn't enough to stop me, right? So and that's the reality. People do die in addiction, and that's the sad truth about it. But
this is your story,
that's
and this
absolutely,
is your belief.
yeah. And I'm living proof of it. If you want it bad enough, you hit a bottom, you put yourself out there and any solution, and you heal, right? And if you don't heal, you keep going backwards, right? You'll keep going back to that.
Thank you for coming. Do you want to have any final thoughts before you go?
No, just I think we need to come together as a community and focus on the right solution, right? Instead of bickering and arguing or whatever that looks like, we need to yes, we need to focus on this problem, right? And our problem, I hear a lot of people saying it, and just through my story, I got lots of emails and stuff like that, and they thanked me for sharing my experience, strength, and hope, because they were looking ignorant on it too, right? So because they're seeing the thieving, they're seeing all that, you know, garbage and all that stuff. So, you know, we need to focus on the solution, and the solution is in, you know, join a 12-step program, like all this stuff. 12-step programs are free, but you know, you got to get to that. We need housing and fundings that are going to support the right areas, not housing and fundings that where you can go and use, and no accountability, right? So we need it all.
And Cindy told me earlier today, there's a couple of people that she knows of, a friend of hers, who, when they saw her story, are already in recovery right now. So there's two people. There's two people. So
do you have? Do you want to give out some contact information if people, maybe somebody on the street sees this and wants to reach out to you, or do you want to leave that out? It's up to you.
Give an email.
Yeah, we'll just
throw it there.
We'll just leave that blank, because I mean there is 12-step programs, there is treatment, there is detox centers and stuff like that. There's helplines, and that's if they didn't have that, I wouldn't have.
Actually, where they should reach out is to City Council at kamloops.ca. Our MPs, Peter Millibar and Todd Stone, Mental Health and Addiction Minister Jennifer Whiteside, David Eby, Ravi Kalan.
Interior Health.
I speak in Interior Health, but recovery you don't need as much of Interior Health. But Mike Farnworth, as a matter of fact, I talked to him the other day. He phoned me about the Surrey thing, and I touched with him on looking into reviewing again, as you guys know, reviewing. A forensic audit of our harm reduction facilities for the residents and clients, for the staff. Cindy knows staff that work in these facilities that are scared stiff when they go to work. I do too, and for the surrounding community. And actually, Mr. Farnworth told me he was going to contact Ravi Kalan and Jennifer Whiteside, and I've talked to David Eby about it. So I think we need to really focus on that in British Columbia, and start getting people healthy, and with healthy people we'll have a healthier community. We don't need bigger fences, we don't need bigger dogs, we don't need bigger cameras, because if we can get thousands of more Cindys, and like Cindy said, there's two people just that she knows of because of her story are moving forward.
That's good.
And not saying that they're gonna not relapse, but
it's a good step.
It's a good step.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay.
I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
No worries.
Problem.
Thank you guys for coming in.
That's an important message.
Volkswagen.
The interview with Cindy. What did you think?
Man, you know, this is going to be one of my favorite interviews that we've ever done. I think that her message was really compelling. It was somebody that's been through it, and it makes you really want it to help. What can I do more to help my community? That's my main thing I've taken from Cindy's testimonial, I guess.
Chris?
I echo what Mike said. Exactly, and it's
Michael.
It's
I'll take that.
It's interesting because it's not unique. You know, her story isn't unique, but it's always good to hear that. We've done lots of stories since I've been at KTW of people battling through addiction, of people homeless, why they're homeless, getting out of homelessness, still being homeless, and it always comes back. Every single one that I can recall, almost everyone, comes back to trauma.
Oh yeah,
it's trauma, and then that leads to the addiction and the mental health. Her stance that the current way that we're dealing with the drug crisis is not working is from her perspective.
Yeah.
We've had Dr. Carol Fenton Kamloops-based interior medical health officer on here, and she's and interior health and the provincial government are of a different opinion. They're heavy on the harm reduction model. They're heavy on safe supply. They're heavy on allowing people to use what they need to use and to decide when they need help. What Cindy was saying was that in her case, it wouldn't have worked because, as she said at the end of her interview, had the options been available now, like housing or as Reid calls it, warehousing, staying in motels, being able to use your drugs, getting free safe supply, she says she would have never came out of the addiction and may have died anyway.
Right, and we want to make it clear that we are not blind to the fact that her beliefs and her story, which is, nobody's doubting her story. It's an amazing story.
It worked for her. It worked for her.
And her method of recovery aligns with what Reid believes.
Yes, it does.
So we're not blind to the fact that that's one side of the story. Yeah. That's what he believes, and that's what was great for her.
Yep.
Doesn't mean it's the right way or what we believe is the right way or the only way.
No, and I think there's a lot of people who look at the state of Vancouver, Kamloops. You look at Portland and San Francisco. Those jurisdictions generally follow the same model. It's a progressive model, and in many people's opinion, including mine, it's not working. It's definitely not working. Alberta has a different model. That is a little more hardcore, a little more recovery, less allowing people to use drugs.
Does it involve buses?
No buses. For a while, the overdose death rate dropped in Alberta, and a lot of the advocates pointed to the Alberta model. But in the recent months, it's gone right back up again. Yeah. So I don't know if there's no one right or wrong way. Maybe, Frank Quinn, a great guy in Kamloops, a developer who has a connection to addiction, he wrote a letter to the paper that Arjun Singh quoted in his column today in our paper, and he says it's not an either or.
Yeah.
You can't just say demonize the safe supply and then the recovery model. It's a combination of both.
Right,
and I agree with that.
And I thought, regardless of Reid's motive, it was great to have her on to tell her story, which is her story, and worked for her. And thank God it did. She looks amazing, and it's great she got her kids back.
Yeah, we know. I mean, he wanted to bring a guest on. We say who is it? He told us who it is. We found out it's Cindy, and she's got this story. Yes, it aligns to his entire reason for running for mayor, but it doesn't diminish what she has to say at all. In fact, I said at the end, you should take that story, and because she speaks at certain groups, I said a most important group to talk to is talk to the school district. Go talk to the kids who are just getting of age, because her trauma couldn't be avoided. But there are people who make decisions, and if they listen to her story and they really listen, it might help some kids not make some bad decisions, I think.
One thing, some positive city council news that came out yesterday we haven't touched on, that maybe we'll follow up on this a bit more because I don't know a whole lot about it. The Kamloops Community Land Trust Foundation, established yesterday by council, the goal to advance the creation of more attainable housing by preserving, acquiring, and providing land, as well as actively developing new partnerships to support housing development. Yeah,
it's a big announcement. I'm looking into it because there's a lot of questions I want to ask Marvin Kwiatkowski, who's the staff member in charge of it. It's interesting. As I understand it, there's conservancy land trusts that, in fact, we did a story recently about one along the highway where an owner will bequeath land to an environmental group, so in perpetuity it never built on, it becomes protective for species and stuff like this. This is similar in that as I understand it, it would be city land or land owned by the senior levels of government, Victoria or Ottawa, that is not being used for anything, and that they would want to build housing on it. And it's not social housing; it's housing for people of low to moderate income.
Yeah,
the people who can't afford a place because the prices are out of control. So it would, and you would take out the profit motive. So you would build, but I just want to find out, would they be a donate? Would it be built by donation? What would it cost? And would the cost come down? There's a lot of questions to be asked, but it's a great idea.
Duplexes, townhouses, fourplexes, multiplexes. That's kind of the target.
Yep.
Not affiliated with social agencies, nor will it provide supportive housing.
No, it's the young family who want to move into their first townhouse and they can't afford it in the market now. Maybe this will bring down the prices because there is no. They mentioned somewhere in there about bringing out the profit or bringing out the cost is reduced big time. So we'll get a story up pretty soon on that.
1 week from today, Michael.
It's going to be epic.
The KLW Charity Pickleball Challenge is all set to go. Myself and you against the evil Volkswagen of Kamloops team at TRU, 6 p.m. by donation. All the money we raise goes to the Kamloops This Week Christmas Cheer Fund, the Y Women's Shelter every single year, along with
three other charities this year.
Other charities
yet to be chosen. Yep.
Great.
We're going to have prizes. That's the big draw. Nobody wants to go really and watch us play pickleball. It's going to be a short game. It's a best of 3. Bill knows. But they do want to win prizes. So I've reached out to our sponsors. I think we have like $600 worth of prizes that are going to be given away. You come in, you sign up, you drop your name in a bucket, you pay what you can to get in, and then you're on the list automatic to win these prizes. It's restaurants, it's golf passes, and other car washes and things like that.
It's going to be, you know what I really like? I like how you guys invited the mayor to come and heckle you guys while you're playing. So
yeah,
that could be fun.
We'll see if he's going to come out. We'll give him the mic, and I'm sure he'll go to town on how we're just drama guys, and we're going to get our asses kicked. Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. So,
all right, for Marty, for Chris, for Bill, and for Magic Mike, this was Kamloops Last Week.